Max Strength Pain Relievers.
A woman you suggest has characteristics of being afraid for her life gives her intimate partner a large knife, which she has inscribed until death. That's your testimony?
Well, there's context.
We drank red wine and continued to talk. It felt like there was an electricity to the room. He was accusing me again of sleeping with this musician, and then he was accusing me of sleeping with my friend in Spain. I just laughed because I thought he was joking, and slapped me across the face. And I laughed. He said, "You think it's so funny? You think it's funny? You think you're a funny?" And he slapped me again. I was heartbroken.
Welcome back to a special hour testimony of the day. Depp be heard. I'm Michael Ayala.
Watch your step.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
It's the day we've all been waiting for. Amber Heard taking the stand on the 14th day of the dueling defamation trial of Heard and her ex-husband, Johnny Depp. And Heard fought back tears today as she told some of this tough testimony.
I struggle to have the words. I struggle to find the words to describe how painful this is. This is horrible. This is the most painful and difficult thing I've ever gone through.
Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter is live now outside the courthouse in Fairfax, Virginia. All right, Chanley, you were in the courtroom during Heard's testimony today. What are the 3 things that we learned?
Hey, good evening, Michael. Lots that we learned today. First, we're learning from Amber Heard herself about those initial instances of physical violence perpetrated by Johnny Depp to her. She's saying Johnny Depp has hit her multiple times. We've also learned that she visited Dr. Don Hughes after Johnny Depp filed his lawsuit in 2019. And we're also learning that the crowds haven't waned. They're still out in full force for Johnny Depp. So let's start again with the headliner. Amber Heard on the witness stand recounting her story for this jury. She took the stand confidently today. Her ex-spouse, looking down, did not look at her as she approached this witness stand. And she started to detail why she was here, her upbringing, her family dynamics when she grew up, what brought her to Hollywood, her acting jobs, and how she met Johnny Depp and how that relationship developed. And she says it started very romantically, like they lived in a bubble. And then things sort of started to change in 2012. And then she told the jury about when he first hit her, allegedly in 2013. Let's watch.
It's seemingly so stupid, so insignificant. I will never forget it. It changed my life. I was sitting on the couch, and we were talking. We were having a normal conversation, you know, just there was no fighting, no argument, nothing. And he was drinking, and I didn't realize at the time, but I think he was using cocaine because it was like there was a jar of cocaine out on the table. I realized that sounds weird, but it was like an actual vintage jar of it. But I didn't see him use it at the time, so I didn't really factor that in. I just, you know, he's drinking and we're talking, and there's music playing, and he's smoking cigarettes, and we're sitting next to each other on the couch. And I asked him about the tattoo he has on his arm. And to me, it just looked like black marks. I didn't know what it said. It just looked like muddled, faded tattoo that was hard to read. And I said, what does it say? And he said it says wino. It says wino. And I didn't see that. I thought he was joking because it didn't look like it said that at all. And I laughed. It was that simple. I just laughed because I thought he was joking, and slapped me across the face. And I laughed. I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. I thought, this must be a joke. This must be a joke. Because I didn't know what was going on. I just stared at him, kind of laughing still, thinking that he was gonna start laughing too to tell me it was a joke, but he didn't. He said, "You think it's so funny? You think it's funny? You think you're a funny?" And he slapped me again. Like, it was clear it wasn't a joke anymore. And I stopped laughing, but I didn't know what else to do. You know, I didn't know what to do. You would think you would have a response, but I, as a woman, had never been hit like that.
The jurors were quite stoic, some taking notes as she would look to them and turn to them and recount this story, and then move forward to recounting several instances of physical violence between her and Johnny Depp. But again, she was the second witness for her case, Michael. Dr. Don Hughes, the first witness, really the precursor for the testimony to come from Amber Heard. Dr. Don Hughes gave this jury also some of these graphic details between the couple and was really picked apart on cross-examination. First thing this morning by Wayne Dennison, one of Depp's attorneys, and he called her out on the fact that she was hired by Amber Heard's team after Johnny Depp filed his lawsuit in 2019, and that Amber Heard recounted all of these details to this doctor after this lawsuit was filed. And he also questioned her about those key audio recordings that we heard during the testimony so far. Let's watch.
And all of those statements that you reviewed, those were statements that started with Miss Heard, correct?
Not necessarily.
Well, the medical records did, didn't they?
Well, the medical records, if she's self-reporting what happened to her, sure. I mean, that's what we do when we go to a physician. We say, I have a headache. We're self-reporting our difficulties.
Yeah. Everything Miss Heard reported directly to you was after she was sued by Mr. Depp in this case, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't meet Miss Heard until, what, September 2019?
That was the first evaluation appointment, correct.
I said to Travis, I said to you, hey, tell Travis what just happened.
Oh, you told me to do it. You told me to. You said, go do that.
I said, no, tell him what just happened.
And I lied.
And that you punched me in the thing. And
You figured it out.
And you said, no, I didn't. What are you talking about? And I watched you lie. And then
I didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, you've been in a lot of fights, been around a long time. I know. Yeah.
No, when you have a close
You didn't get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not deck you. I was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are you?
What am I supposed to do? Do this? I'm not sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are.
Oh.
That's the difference between me and you. You're a baby.
Because you started.
You are such a baby. Grow the up,
You started
Johnny.
physical fights.
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did. So I had
Because. Yes, you did. So you did the right thing, the big thing. You know what? You're admirable.
You agree with Miss Heard that it's admirable to retreat from a fight?
Is it admirable? It is admirable to retreat from a fight.
Yeah. Anything about this tape suggest to you that it's characteristic of reactive violence?
In this instance, if true, if she said she hit him first, then that would not be reactive violence.
It was in that moment, Michael, that Depp's attorneys looked at each other like that was a score for them, that admission from that expert on cross-examination. And of course, in the gallery, packed house, because again, dozens and dozens of fans line up first thing in the morning. In fact, I spoke to one who got in line at midnight last night, Michael, and was number 13 in the line. So there were 13 people who arrived before midnight to get inside that courtroom to watch this man enter. They also line up behind the courthouse as he rolls in and he rolls out. Every day he was blaring Bob Marley this morning, as per usual. And of course, when they left, he went a different direction. This evening, they're kind of switching up the game at the end of the day because of what happened on Monday, which was pretty treacherous to watch as people swarmed his SUV. So extra security was out this afternoon, Michael, about 15 to 20 extra guards, plus some vehicles with flashing lights and extra motorcycles, police motorcycles as well, to make sure people stayed on the sidewalk when he exited.
Chandler, I just want to double check. Did you say when he comes in the morning, he's playing Bob Marley?
Yes, virtually every morning, if you turn up the sound in those videos, you can hear Bob Marley. The song varies, but yeah, he seems to jam out on his way in.
I like his taste in music. All right, Chandler, Amber Heard, yeah, she's looking a bit different today. That was clear. A lot of people online noticed it. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this was the talk of the gallery. When she entered the courtroom first thing this morning, everyone's sort of chatting, and then the door opens, that special entrance where Amber Heard comes in and she has a different look. Now, this look seems to echo maybe some previous looks she's had during this trial, but it was notable today because this was her day on the witness stand, and so a lot of people talking about her hair a little looser, tucked under, less makeup than previous days. The one on the left is yesterday, and then, of course, today. And Michael, at first I thought, well, maybe she has it over her left eye a little bit so that when she is on the stand, maybe she doesn't see Johnny Depp in her peripheral vision as she's talking to the jury. But today inside the courtroom, she was looking directly at him. He was looking down. Of course, when she did this, when she would refer to Johnny, she would look to him sitting there at counsel table and seemed quite confident so far on the witness stand.
All right, now, Chandler, what can we expect coming up tomorrow?
More Amber Heard on direct. It's likely that her cross-examination will not begin until, well, court is dark next week. So we have tomorrow another full day of direct examination for Amber Heard. Like we mentioned earlier, she's only in 2013. Several more years to go for her story before this jury. And then court is dark for a week because the judge has a judge's conference to attend next week. So this jury will have a week off with Amber Heard's direct exam testimony on their minds.
All right, so more of Amber Heard direct on the stand tomorrow. Chandler Painter, thank you so much for that report. Appreciate it. As always, I'll let you go now. But right now, we want to get back to more of Amber Heard's testimony today. You just heard her describe the first time that she claims Depp hit her. Now, as part of her testimony, a photo of Heard with a bruise on her arm was shown. Take a look.
Did there come a time in March, Amber, where you sent a picture to your mom?
Yes, this is sometime in March 2013. I sent it to her because I'd been texting about some of the craziness, and
Objection, hearsay.
I'll sustain as to what she may have texted. All right, next question.
Without saying what you said in the text, explain why you were sending it to your mom.
I was reaching out. I was very lonely in what I was living in, and I wanted help. I wanted advice, help. I just wanted to talk to somebody and figure out how I could make this stop.
And is this a picture that you took of yourself in March of 2013?
I did.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendants Exhibit 170A.
Any objection?
No objection, Your
All
Honor.
right, 170A in evidence. You can publish the picture.
Thank you, Your Honor. And how did you sustain that bruise, Amber?
I had thrown Johnny slapped me. I walked away from him, and that made it worse. We got into like a shouting match. And he kind of did this thing with his body where I could tell he was going to hit me again. I picked up I remember it kind of like a little pot, not a pot, but like a vase. And I remember I got away from him enough as he reels back. I threw it in his direction, and I actually managed to get away before he got me. He grabbed me by the arm, and he kind of just held me on the floor, screaming at me. I don't know how many times he hit me in the face, but I remember being on the floor of my apartment, and I remember thinking, how could this happen to me again?
We continue with our coverage of Amber Heard on the stand. She methodically recounted incidents of domestic violence. Heard claims she suffered at the hands of Depp. Up next, she testifies about a disturbing incident involving a painting.
Will you please state your name?
Yes, it's Amber Laura Heard.
Why are you here?
I am here because my ex-husband is suing me.
And how do you feel about that?
I struggle to have the words. I struggle to find the words to describe how painful this is. This is horrible for me to sit here for weeks and relive everything. Hear people that I knew, some well, some not. My ex-husband, with whom I shared a life. This is the most painful and difficult thing I've ever gone through, for sure.
Jewelry with Worthy.com.
Welcome back to a special hour, testimony of the day, Depp v. Heard, Michael Ayala. Amber Heard laid out incident after incident of domestic abuse she claims she suffered during her marriage to Johnny Depp. She testified about their pattern of abuse and how Depp's substance abuse played a role in their toxic relationship.
Could you please describe for the jury the evolution of your relationship after that time with Johnny?
I don't know how long it was until things got bad again. He did start drinking again. I remember it was almost, you know, he'd start drinking again, the disappearing thing, the coming back. He'd come back at, like in the middle of the night to my house. And it would be unclear to me, you know, drunk, often really drunk, and kind of accusing me, but not directly. Nothing was very direct. It was a lot of accusations, but they were veiled. You know, what I was wearing, who I was with, why didn't I text him back? I didn't text him back right away. This was when I was at my place in Orange. Sometimes he would show up to catch me. Like that was a pretext for coming over. And by the time we were done talking, I would have thought I convinced him that I loved him, that I only loved him, there was no one else, and then that we were back in an upswing and would go back to good, loving, like sick, romantic love, like kind, sweet, velvety love. And then it would be something I said, why did you say it that way? You know, if I had to leave for an audition, I could guarantee that when couldn't guarantee, but 2 of those in a row, and when I came back, he was angry at me, you know, and I wouldn't necessarily know why. And then he started accusing me of things, probably, like, at first it was indirect, and then it became really direct. Then the punching of the walls next to my head, which was a constant at that time in 2012 when he was drinking. Eventually that became, you know, him accusing me of cheating. I'd defend myself. I'd say, you know, that's crazy. You're wrong. I would never. The normal things. And they would escalate to the point where he would push me or shove me down, and then I'd get back up. And this happened several times. That's why it's not more specific, I suppose. When I'd get back up, I'd look him in the eye. I made a point of getting up and looking him in the eye. It's my way of defending myself at that time. And I'd look at him, and he'd ask me if I wanted to go again, and shove me back down. Eventually, he just hit me. Remember, he hit me in the face when I denied having an affair with my ex-wife, my ex-partner at the time. And he said he had proof. I denied it. And I was walking out of the bedroom, slapped me across the face. I turned to look at him. And I said, Johnny, you hit me. You just hit me.
So let me start with the painting incident. Please tell the jury what happened on that particular incident with the painting.
As I mentioned, the painting, which had been hanging there for months, one day he kind of stayed up doing cocaine, just drinking, doing cocaine, music, which is not in and of itself that weird in my relationship with Johnny at this point. You know, like he stays up and keeps weird hours and smokes and stuff. But he was drinking brown liquor and doing a lot of cocaine, and it was like, it became clear to me in that argument, if you will, that he wasn't making sense. He had effectively just taken, it seemed like, a turn and had decided that the painting was an offense that he could not forgive me for. It meant I was having an affair with my ex-partner, whom I had already split. And it made no sense to me. So I'm trying to kind of quell the accusations by saying, it's been there, and what are you talking about? And it's like, that doesn't mean anything. And, he was demanding I take it down. He eventually takes it down and tries to burn it, but it was unsuccessful, luckily, because he wasn't with one of those normal, what do you call them, Bic lighters. He wasn't very successful at doing it while drinking. To the extent he was. But I remember it was this kind of ridiculous fight, didn't feel like it needed to be an argument, but it seemed like nothing I could do, nothing I could say. I tried leaving. I left the room. I left the house. I eventually came back. It was like a whole night, an evening, a night, and then a morning of this. So this morning in particular, I think it was the 22nd of March. There were several incidents in March though. But in this particular one, he had something to go to. He was filming with Keith Richards and Tom Waits.
Well, let me, before you go into that part, let's pull up Defendants Exhibit 161, which is already admitted into evidence, I believe, Your Honor.
Yes, 161 with redactions.
Thank you. And I'm going to show you Defendants Exhibit 161. And the date on this is 3/12/2013, and it's a text exchange between you and Mr. Depp. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. And the first one is from you to Mr. Depp. Just thought you should know there exists a book. Is that to you? Is it to Mr. Depp, or it's vice versa, isn't it?
It's Johnny texting me.
Just thought you should know there exists a book titled Disco Bloodbath. And then you say, we need that book. And you say, is this about last Friday night by any chance? And he says, how can you make me smile about such a hideous moment? And I'm not going to repeat the rest of it. Could you tell the jury what happened on that Friday night?
There were, like I said, there was a few different incidents in March. I believe this one happened in the Eastern Columbia building, which is one of Johnny's penthouses. They're in downtown, so a different part of Los Angeles. And we would sometimes go there. I remember he was accusing me again of sleeping with this artist, this musician who I'd never slept with. I was denying it. I barely knew the person. And then he was accusing me of sleeping with my friend in Spain. And I remember nothing I could do. He called this person on the phone and screamed at him. He didn't speak English, so he was really confused as to what he was being yelled at by Johnny. But I remember those were the accusations. That was the fight. But it was one to the next accusation. And I remember I was kind of doing that juggling act. I was in one of these fights, I believe it's this one, in his downtown ECB, we call it, loft. And we're in the kitchen living room area, and he backhands me. And, it was, he wears a lot of rings. I remember kind of just feeling like my lip went into my teeth, and it got a little blood on the wall. Just that simple, a little bit of blood on the wall. As hard as it is to explain this, I was so caught up in the relationship and also very occupied in defending what I only could assume he believed, these accusations, that, I didn't internalize, like, I didn't make that big of a deal of it. I kind of pride myself on being tough, and, I don't make a big deal out of, smaller injuries. And I know that sounds horrible and hard maybe to understand, but my best way to cope with it is I kind of, minimize it, make sure no one, make sure he knows that I'm tough and can't knock me down, and I make a joke of it, clearly.
We have much more of Amber Heard's testimony today on the stand. Up next, we hear her testify about how her relationship with Depp began.
Do you remember the first time that he physically hit you?
Yes. It's seemingly so stupid, so insignificant. I will never forget it. I was sitting on the couch, and we were talking. We were having a normal conversation, there was no fighting, no argument, nothing. And he was drinking, and I asked him about the tattoo he has on his arm, and I said, what does it say? And he said it says wino. It says wino. And I didn't see that. I thought he was joking because it didn't look like it said that at all. And I laughed. I just laughed because I thought he was joking, and slapped me across the face. And I laughed. I didn't know what else to do. I thought, this must be a joke. I just stared at him, kind of laughing still, thinking that he was gonna start laughing too to tell me it was a joke, but he didn't. He said, you think it's so funny? You think it's funny? You think you're a funny? And he slapped me again. I wish so much he had said he was joking.
Amber Heard's testimony on the stand has been emotional and powerful. Now, she walked the courtroom through the start of her relationship with Johnny Depp. Take a listen.
So when you returned to Los Angeles, what, if anything, took place with any relationship with Mr. Depp?
Well, once we were back from the press tour, we had this, whirlwind romance kind of just in these like beautiful places all over, and we're falling in love and not able to really show it because he wasn't, the world didn't know about the split between he and his former partner. And of course, as a woman, I was like, is that troubling? And I'd ask him, no, he swore to me that they hadn't even shared a bed for a year and that they were protecting the kids and not publicizing it, or not making it known to the press. And so we kind of had to be a little bit under the radar, not a little bit, we had to be really under the radar because as Johnny pointed out, that the world would blame me and call me a homewrecker, even though I had nothing to do with it. So we were secretly dating, and then, it was beautiful. It was, I felt like this man knew me and saw me in a way that no one else had. I felt he understood me. I felt he understood where I came from. I felt that, like, when I was around Johnny, I felt like the most beautiful person in the whole world. It made me feel seen, made me feel like $1 million. And that kind of feeling where, he's just lavish gifts and lavish expressions of love, and how he had never met a woman like me. I remember he took the foil off of this bottle and put it on my ring finger, and I had only been with him like days, or maybe it was weeks at the time. Yeah, it was probably about a few weeks, but it just felt very intense. But we weren't doing normal life stuff. We weren't like stuck in traffic with each other. We weren't going to the grocery store and doing life. We were like hiding in these places around the world. He has so many homes. And so we'd be in one of those homes, or my home at the time, and it would be like a bubble, like we were in this little bubble of secrecy, and it felt like a warm glow, as we would say. Just music and the kind of books that we both loved and poetry that we both knew by heart, and it felt like a dream. It felt like absolute magic.
So while you're dating, I take it you're dating at this point, right?
Yeah, sorry,
while you're falling in love, you're also dating, right? Okay.
Yes.
Did there come a time early on that you ended up going to his Bahamas island?
Yes. So shortly after, we, I think, started dating October of 2011, and as I mentioned, this bubble, where he'd come over to my house and not leave for like 3 or 4 days, just smoking cigarettes and playing music and reading poetry to me or painting me, or, just talking. And then he would disappear. And there'd be just no way to get a hold of him, no way to contact him. At first, I didn't really think anything about it, but he disappeared at one point, and then came back and said he was dealing with some health issue, and would I join him in the Bahamas? And I think that's when I learned he had an island, and I was on a trip with a friend of mine in Spain, and it was for the holidays, and I kind of rerouted my trip so I could come and land in LA landing in Miami instead of LA, so I could go and meet him on the island. And he had Keenan come and meet me on that on that trip, like in Miami, I get off one plane, get onto another, and go and join him on his private island. And I noticed he was drinking Beck's and tea, but like lots of tea, like lots of tea. And I didn't foolishly think anything of it. I just, thought the man really seriously, I missed it before, but really, really loves tea. And we had this beautiful, I don't know, less than a week probably, trip in the Bahamas, a private island, beautiful sandy beaches. It's a scene that you just don't, I had never experienced anything like that. It was a beautiful place, a beautiful time. And I fell head over heels in love with this man.
The man owns an island. Think about that. Next here on Court TV, the first witness for Heard's case was psychologist Dr. Dawn Hughes. We're going to take a look at her testimony when we come back. Welcome back to a special hour testimony of the day. Depp v. Heard. I'm Michael Ayala. The first witness for Heard's side was psychologist Dr. Dawn Hughes. Her testimony contradicted Depp's own expert witness. And yesterday, Dr. Hughes testified about alleged gruesome accounts of sexual violence Heard says was present in their relationship. Well, today on cross-examination on her second day of testimony, Dr. Hughes reacted to an audio recording where Heard admits to hitting Depp during an argument.
You indicated that you had listened to audio recordings as part of the work you did in this case?
That's correct.
All right. I'd like to play you a portion of one of those recordings. It's Plaintiff's Exhibit 343. It's already in evidence. And for the record, the portion I want to play is 2 minutes 46, 246.01 to 247.20.
I said to Travis, I said to you, hey, tell Travis what just happened.
Oh, you told me to do it. You told me to. You said, go do that.
I said, no, tell him what just happened.
And I lied.
And that you punched me in the thing. And
You figured it out.
And you said, no, I didn't. What the are you talking about? And I watched you lie. And then
I didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, you've been in a lot of fights, been around a long time. I know. Yeah.
No, when you have a close
You didn't get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not deck you. I was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are you?
What am I supposed to do? Do this? I'm not sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are. That's the difference between me and you. You're a baby.
Because you started.
You are such a baby. Grow the up,
Did you
Johnny.
start physical fights?
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did, so I had to get out of there.
Yes, you did. So you did the right thing, the big thing. You know what? You're admirable.
You agree with Ms. Heard that it's admirable to retreat from a fight?
Is it admirable? It is admirable to retreat from a fight.
Yeah. Anything about this tape suggest to you that it's characteristic of reactive violence?
In this instance, if true, if she said she hit him first, then that would not be reactive violence.
All right. You testified that Ms. Heard reported to you that she engaged in low levels of violence, correct?
Well, I don't think she said that. I think that was the characterization of knowing the types of minor and severe levels of violence.
Oh, okay, I got it wrong. You consider low levels of violence.
Well, I considered what the literature and the research talks about low levels of violence as opposed to severe levels of violence.
And I think you suggested that Ms. Heard sustained more severe injuries, correct?
I think I said more frequent injuries.
More frequent, but not more severe.
Well, certainly the incidents in Australia and the sexual violence and the incidents on December 15th, 2015 were quite severe.
You said you reviewed medical records in rendering your opinion.
Correct.
And you reviewed photographs.
Correct.
Now, other than the reports to her therapists, which you call medical records, right?
Yeah, I would call those medical records,
Right.
sure.
Other than the reports to her therapist, there's not a single medical record that reflects any injury to Ms. Heard, is there?
That's not correct.
No. There is not other than what doctor reflected injuries to Ms. Heard?
The note by Erin Borum, her married name, I'm not recalling her married name, indicated that she was headbutted by Mr. Depp and that she went for a concussion check and she had a busted lip and then she went to Dr. Kipper's office in order to get checked.
What? And there's a medical record other than that note that reflects it?
There's a note that she showed up at Dr. Kipper's office. There's a note in the
But there's
similar
nothing
2
from
days that
Dr. Kipper,
Dr.
is there?
Laurel Anderson saw the 2 bruises from that same incident as well.
All right. You reviewed photographs.
Yes.
All right. I'd like to put up PX 144. It's been published to the jury briefly. I'm going to keep it up very briefly. That photograph doesn't reflect a low level of violence, does it?
Well, that reflects a severe injury, I would agree.
Yeah. Why don't we go to PX 145? That's a severe injury that ended up with Mr. Depp on a gurney, correct?
That is a severe injury, correct?
Yeah. All right. Is it your testimony that throwing a can of mineral spirits at your spouse is characteristic of reactive violence?
If you are running away from your spouse who is trying to hurt you, yes.
All right, so you can throw a can of mineral spirits. What about if you throw a can of Red Bull?
Again, it depends on what the incident I think that you're referring to. That was not necessarily reactive violence. That was in a state of frustration or anger.
All right, so when you throw a can of Red Bull in a state of frustration or anger, that's not reactive violence?
No.
All right. Well, what about if you throw a bottle of vodka because your husband fell off the wagon? Is that reactive violence?
Are you asking me hypothetically?
I'm asking you, would that be a characteristic of reactive violence? Throw a bottle of vodka because your husband fell off the wagon.
If it's in the middle of an assault, perhaps. If it's independent of that, no.
Right. So, for instance, if your husband was just having a couple of shots at the bar.
Again, you would need more information and context to make that determination.
All right. You don't think that's a reflexive of reactive violence? And you'll agree with me that when you throw the second bottle, that's not reactive violence.
If somebody's throwing multiple bottles, again, psychological violence and abuse is psychologically destabilizing, which destabilizes individuals' coping strategies. That is absolutely true.
Lost what's true. Is it your testimony that once you've thrown one bottle and missed, when you throw the second one, now it's reactive violence?
That's not what I'm saying. I don't think throwing bottles is acceptable in any context.
That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Michael Ayala. Coming up next, closing arguments with Vinnie Politan. And Vinnie has the best of Amber Heard's testimony today. Keep it right here on Court TV.
like a great rate on an auto loan for some more reliable wheels. Credit Karma. Download the free money app where your hard work pays off.
All eyes on Amber Heard today after sitting in the courtroom for weeks, listening to her ex, Johnny Depp, and all his witnesses talk about her. Amber began to tell her story.
I am here because my ex-husband is suing me.
Trying to convince the jury and convince the world that she told the truth, that she was abused by Johnny.
Slapped me across the face. He said, "You think it's so funny? You think it's funny? You think you're a funny?" And he slapped me again.
We are live from Fairfax County, Virginia, as Amber Heard tells her side of the story about what was happening in this love affair and marriage that turned into a bitter breakup, divorce, and dueling defamation trial. Tonight, we have all the latest in Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Please take a moment, sit down. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about tonight. What a day in Fairfax, Virginia. This was a big day down in Fairfax, Virginia. A big day for Amber Heard, sworn in to testify today. And think about what happened before this. 3.5 weeks of Johnny Depp and his witnesses, his staff, independent witnesses, talking about Amber Heard and painting an ugly picture of Amber Heard, of who she is. I mean, literally a picture of someone who is out of their mind. That's what we've been listening to inside that courtroom. That was the big setup. So today, a big day for Amber Heard. No, let me take that back. No, today was a really big day for Amber Heard because number one, right, she's being sued for $50 million, so you want to take care of that. That's first and foremost, right? You want to win the case. You want this jury to understand that you didn't lie about your ex, Johnny Depp. You want this jury to understand that you told the truth, so you're not liable for or on the hook for $50 million. But number two, this is her life. This is her legacy. With everything that's happened in the last 3 weeks, she's got to turn things around. You know, turn things around in the courtroom with the jurors, obviously, because the $50 million, but then turn it around so, you know, when it's time to get an acting job or to meet someone new or to live the rest of your life, not have this be who you are. Not have this be your legacy. You know, you don't want people to say, Amber Heard, no, that's not what you want. You want to turn that around. This is an enormously big day for Amber Heard. And how does she accomplish that? How does she turn this thing around? She turns it around by talking about her ex-husband, Johnny Depp, and how rotten of a human being he is. That's what she has to do. Make Johnny look rotten, period. That's her goal. That's what she's going to do up on the witness stand, and that's what we heard today. I mean, this was horrific stuff. This is not like, oh yeah, we got into a little fight. This is, I was sexually assaulted, I've been abused all the time. And it's always his fault. Always his fault. And that's where we were today. So the big question, though, is you know, it begins inside the courtroom with this jury. Ultimately, 7 will deliberate. Are they buying this? Are they believing what she's saying? And remember, folks, this is not a criminal case. Johnny Depp doesn't have to prove his case beyond any and all reasonable doubt. It's like this much more. If they believe him this much more than her, he can win this thing. And then what does that do for the rest of Amber Heard's life? If she loses the trial, I mean, a lot of us are talking about the trial. You know, defamation is almost impossible to win against. If you are a celebrity, if you're a celebrity suing someone for defamation, it's almost impossible to win the case because of the First Amendment and our laws in this country. And what all the things that you have to prove to win the case. It's a tough case for Johnny Depp. But she could potentially lose that. So let's get you into the courtroom. I know you want to hear some of the big moments, and trust me, sit down. We're going to go through all the big moments. By the end of this program tonight, you will know exactly what happened today inside that courtroom and what it means. So let's begin with the violence. Amber Heard talking about the very first time she was hit by Johnny Depp.
I was sitting on the couch and we were talking. We were having a normal conversation, you know, just there was no fighting, no argument, nothing. And he was drinking, and I didn't realize at the time, but I think he was using cocaine because it was like there was a jar of cocaine out on the table. I realize that sounds weird, but it was like an actual vintage jar of it. But I didn't see him use it at the time, so I didn't really factor that in. I just, you know, he's drinking and we're talking and there's music playing and he's smoking cigarettes and we're sitting next to each other on the couch. And I asked him about the tattoo he has on his arm. And to me, it just looked like black marks. I didn't know what it said. It just looked like muddled, faded tattoo that was hard to read. And I said, what does it say? And he said it says wino. It says wino. And I didn't see that. I thought he was joking because it didn't look like it said that at all. And I laughed. It was that simple. I just laughed because I thought he was joking. And slapped me across the face. And I laughed. I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. I thought, this must be a joke. This must be a joke. Because I didn't know what was going on. I just stared at him, kind of laughing still, thinking that he was gonna start laughing too to tell me it was a joke, but he didn't. He said, "You think it's so funny? You think it's funny? You think you're a funny?" And he slapped me again. Like, it was clear it wasn't a joke anymore.
What was it like in the courtroom as Amber Heard begins to tell the story of the violence she says that she endured at the hands of her ex-husband, Johnny Depp? Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter live outside the courthouse in Fairfax County, Virginia. Of course, inside the courtroom when all this is happening. What's happening there? What's it like in the courtroom as she is telling the story, and what reaction are you noticing, are you seeing?
Well, of course, I have my eyes all over the place inside this courtroom, and you play a moment where Amber Heard starts to recount the very first time that she says Johnny Depp was physically violent with her. And I noticed a shift in the gallery. You know, I sit up front sometimes, I sit kind of in the back so I can take in the gallery's reaction. And I immediately noticed a very hostile crowd, as we know, and we've discussed many times that most of the people here are for Johnny Depp. And so they would move around in their seats. I see them mouthing to each other, murmurs, shaking their head, really kind of like what Johnny Depp was doing there at counsel table, not believing, buying any of her allegations as she talked to the jury. And also Johnny Depp, we see him there sort of reacting, smiling or laughing, but that really didn't happen or wasn't noticeable where he was sitting back kind of like that until she started to recount the alleged abuse incidents. Before that, when she was talking about why she was there, her family, her background, what brought her to Hollywood, and the movie roles, even meeting Johnny Depp and how fairy tale-like their relationship was, his head was down the entire time. But, Vinny, I noticed Amber Heard having no problem really looking directly towards Johnny Depp.
She's looking in his direction, and she's also turning to the side. Is that when she is speaking directly to the jury?
Yes, every time she turns her head to the side, to her right, she is looking directly at the jurors, Vinny, and I see them doing what they've done every day of this trial, which is be very stoic, no overt reactions, but at least one time, the woman who sits on the front row did nod in response to Amber Heard looking over and describing something to the jury.
Okay. When did Amber today, because a lot of testimony, right? I mean, it was long and it's not even close to being done. But when did she first get emotional on the stand?
Right, we were all sort of anticipating her becoming emotional because remember, the precursor to her testimony was a psychologist who talked about the intense, severe trauma that Amber Heard suffers at the hands of Johnny Depp and PTSD and reliving all of that. So, you know, with that in mind, the jurors are taking in her testimony, and she did become emotional in that we could hear her voice start to crack when she was talking about how great her relationship was with Johnny Depp at one point. Let's watch.
I felt like this man knew me and saw me in a way that no one else had. I felt he understood me. I felt he understood where I came from. I felt that, like, when I was around Johnny, I felt like the most beautiful person in the whole world. You know, it made me feel seen, made me feel like $1 million.
Overall, Vinny, she was articulate and confident on the witness stand as we watched her, and really descriptive at times in her words, and like she was really trying to be careful in how she picked her words.
Let's take a listen to some more of her testimony, because a big part of this is, right, this is a long relationship, but they don't get married till 2015, and the relationship starts way before, but according to Amber Heard, the violence at the hands of Johnny starts way before they get married. But she's describing really two different versions of Johnny Depp. Let's take a look.
So much. I felt like he recognized me and I recognized him, and there was just something there that I thought he was the love of my life. And he was. He was, but he was also this other thing. He was also this other thing. And that other thing was awful, awful thing that would come out and take over, and it was, you couldn't see the Johnny I loved underneath it. It was this other thing. And no one told him, no one was honest with him, no one, you know, he'd pass out in his own vomit, he'd lose control of his body, his, you know, he'd lose control, and everyone would clean up after him. I cleaned up after him. I mean, this man lost control of his bowels, and I cleaned up after him. His security cleaned up after him, changed his pants in front of me. He would pass out in his own sick.
Saw the reaction there at the end from Johnny Depp as she's describing him losing control of his bowels there. The other thing a lot of people are talking about is the emotion, and it happens, you know, it happens in all our trials. When there's a witness up there, if it's a defendant or an accuser, whatever it is, and there's an emotional part, people are like, are these real tears or are these crocodile tears? And a lot of people question whether or not there were any tears today, any wiping of tears or anything.
I'm going to try to bring my binoculars inside the courtroom tomorrow. Even with my glasses on, it is difficult to make out whether or not there are tears, but from what we can hear, it sounds, of course, like she's crying. Those jurors have the best seat, the closest seat, and of course our court TV cameras, of course, have the best view of all. But, you know, her emotion, what she brought forth in this, you know, these jurors have heard testimony from Johnny Depp's bodyguards. She's referring to the people there, Vinnie, of those closest to him and around him, those who testified for him in his case, and that they can maybe put two and two together, that they downplayed his loyal bodyguards, downplay maybe some of his issues and then tried to cover for him. And she gives a couple of examples of that. And so, you know, this puzzle is really sort of coming together, but a very different version and perspective that they're getting from Amber Heard that they didn't obviously get during Johnny Depp's case. Completely different
relationship is being described. And, you know, the jury's got to make up their mind because either one or both people are either lying or exaggerating about what's going on here because they both can't be telling the truth. That we know for sure because the accounts are so different. Corroboration is always a big part. Johnny Depp's case, corroboration from many witnesses. Amber Heard used a photograph today during her testimony involving some injuries. Let's take a look at that.
How did you sustain that bruise, Amber?
I had thrown Johnny slapped me. I walked away from him, and that made it worse. We got into like a shouting match. And he kind of did this thing with his body where I could tell he was going to hit me again. I picked up I remember it kind of like a little pot, not a pot, but like a vase. And I remember I got away from him enough as he reels back. I threw it in his direction, and I actually managed to get away before he got me. He grabbed me by the arm, and he kind of just held me on the floor, screaming at me. I don't know how many times he hit me in the face, but I remember being on the floor of my apartment. And I remember thinking, how could this happen to me again?
Okay, so this attack that she's describing, as she's getting hit in the face. Were there any photos of any face injuries from this incident? We did see the arm bruise, and we heard she described a very chaotic situation, right? Vases are flying, getting slapped, chased down, held on the ground, but then she said hit repeatedly in the face.
Right, and then the picture of the face was not published to the jury. You know, in the gallery, I can see the screens on counsel table, and there was one moment where Elaine Bredhoff refers to a photo, and I can see it's Amber's face. And there was a sidebar that was not admitted into evidence where it was published to the jury. So that was not shown. I thought that was interesting. I had it in my notes and I crossed that out because the jury didn't see it. But this photo of the arm was into evidence and it was up on the screen. It's from March 2013. And again, she's talking about kind of this another altercation. She didn't think it would happen again. It happened again to her. And speaking of corroboration, notice what the defense is doing as they conduct this direct. Not only are they having her recount the story, but they're also showing the photos and who she told afterwards, right? That person that you tell someone to, she texted her mother, and so they see this text message to her mother. They also see an email to her friend Ronkie Pennington, sending a photo, corroborating that she not only endured this, but then she told someone in the near future right after it happened.
You know, if I'm a juror and I'm looking at that photo that we're looking at right now, yeah, I obviously see a bruise on her arm, but I'm going to focus on the face because it's the same attack, right? It's the same attack where she's repeatedly struck in the face. So I think the jury could even just look at this photo to see what you can and can't see. By the way, it doesn't even look like her.
And they are leaning in. Yeah, the different hair color. But these jurors do lean into their screen, Vinny. They really do scrutinize everything that's put up in front of them.
And it's right in front of them. That's great to hear, because this is significant, important evidence. You've got these two completely different versions of what's happening. It's all about corroboration. You know, what does the other evidence line up with what she's saying or what he is saying? All right, Chanley Painter is going to join us and be back with us in just a little bit. When we come back, though, folks, we're going to bring in body language expert Janine Driver to take a look at what happened inside the courtroom today, not only on the witness stand, but also Johnny Depp's reaction to all of this. What are some of the things that her body is saying as we're listening to her testimony? And what is Johnny Depp communicating from counsel table? That is next.
Yours at Nix.com.
And I remember just seeing my breath on the windshield, you know, on the glass of the window of the door, just seeing my breath and trying to will myself to have the strength to know what I should do in this moment, because I was heartbroken.
Amber Heard on the stand today. Wow, what a day. Trying to take a look at her testimony from a bunch of different perspectives. Let's bring in our expert to help us. Joining us in Alexandria, Virginia, New York Times bestselling author of the book You Can't Lie to Me, retired ATF investigator and world-renowned body language expert, Janine Driver, back with us. Janine, great to see you.
Nice to see you, Vinny.
Let's jump right into it and play some testimony here from Amber Heard. And this is right in the beginning of her testimony, one of the first questions that she answers.
Why are you here?
I am here because my ex-husband is suing me for an op-ed I wrote.
And how do you feel about that?
I struggle to have the words. I struggle to find the words to describe how painful this is. This is horrible for me to sit here for weeks and relive everything. Hear people that I knew, some well, some not. My ex-husband, with whom I shared a life, speak about our lives in the way that they have. This is the most painful and difficult thing I've ever gone through.
Janine Driver, what are you seeing? What are you hearing from Amber Heard there?
Listen, Vinny, I wish we had an hour together. I could do a special on this today.
Well, we have a show every night, so don't worry. We'll have plenty of time.
Good. You'll have me back. So we see just at the end of that clip there, Amber sucked in her lip and bites her lip. This is concern and stress. The nerves of our lips are stimulated by her sucking in her lip like that. It's as if back in the day when we sucked our thumb, it's that comforting gesture. So we see that. The problem with Amber in her testimony is that she does all these start-stop sentences. This is congruent with someone who is being deceptive. In the clips you played earlier, it's interesting because her percentages are off. You know, the question was, do you remember the first time you were hit? And she says yes, and she stacks the deck in the beginning. This is something we saw with Jussie Smollett, who staged a hate crime in Chicago a couple of years ago. He did a huge percent, about 60% up front in his story. The actual incident where this bad stuff happened to him was like 20%, and then a short after. We're seeing the same thing here with Amber Heard. She's stacking the deck up front. She gives us this big stress about how much cocaine he had in this bottle. She's giving us irrelevant information. Liars will often do this, Vinny. They'll give us a lot of truthful information at the front. They're stacking the deck, right? They're telling us all these things are truthful. I believe that the cocaine was there. I believe it was a big bottle. I believe they were sitting on the couch together. The problem is when she gets to the actual attack, it is such a small percent. It's maybe 15%. We have a big before, a big after. The incident itself is small. The percentages are off here. We're always looking for about 30% up front, 20 to 30%, 50% of the attack, and then we're looking for a small after. What happened after? It should be really short, maybe 10, 15, no more than 20%. And so her percentage is off. Also, I want to talk about something called statement analysis, if I may. One of the things when she said, he slapped me, I want you to re-listen to it over and over again. She doesn't say he slapped me. She says, slapped me. She drops the pronoun, and when people are being deceptive, Vinny, people will have a change in pronouns or they'll drop it. She doesn't say, he slapped me. She also changes her tense. So she goes from slapped, the first one's a slapped, the second one's a slapped, past tense. The third one is a slap. That is current tense. When people are making up a story, they'll talk in current tense. I wrote down some of the things. She then said, before I knew it, he starts crying. Instead of he started crying. Her current tense to past tense is indicative of someone who's making up a story in the spot. I think parts of it are true and many of it is deceptive. And that's why anyone in law enforcement watching this, I spoke to law enforcement earlier today, it's laughable, sadly, what she's doing on the court.
Let's take a listen to some more. And this part, it gets a little more graphic. It's showing the nasty Johnny that she is painting inside the courtroom.
You know, he would make these comments about, you know, whoring myself out, but do so in the context of me acting, you know, and he would talk about other actresses who do my role in this way where they were worthless whores, that they were, you know, fame hungry, you know, expletive, you know, just this. The point is, it felt really dirty to be an actor. Never mind that he was one.
How about there? What are you seeing?
I believe this is truthful. Why? Because we're seeing her leak disgust. Her upper lip is coming up, Vinnie, when she's saying, you know, calling them dirty whores, and that upper lip comes up in disgust. This body language and her tone and pitch, it's all congruent, right? So we have the same tone and pitch. She's not doing these start-stop sentences. She does pause, but continues with her sentence. This part, I believe she's telling the truth. There was disgust right there when the upper lip came up. The problem is when she talks about the attacks, and I think we'll hear it again more tomorrow when we hear about supposedly more attacks. You're going to see and hear those tense changes. The body language isn't going to be congruent with what she's telling us. She also had a couple points here. You may see it. She holds her nose slightly high. When people do this, this is extreme confidence, superiority, arrogance, and indignation. So it's out of place for a battered woman to have her head held high here. It's this smugness.
Now, Johnny Depp's head was held down low during a lot of the testimony. He's looking down, and a lot of people commenting on it. What does it mean? I mean, I don't know if he's drawing or what he's doing there, but clearly his head is down while his ex-wife is talking about their relationship.
Yeah, and he even smiles a little bit. So this is to alleviate that negative feeling and to do similar to what she did. She was writing on these notes. The interesting part here, Vinnie, is usually the person that's breaking the eye contact is the person who has been abused. It's hard for them to look at the abuser, so they'll often do this eye avoidance, it's called. It's often done when someone looks away and stops looking. I can't deal with the obnoxious person that's right in front of me, and this person's not likable. And so they'll do this eye avoidance. If you've ever been in a meeting where you speak and someone does this, you immediately feel that they don't like you. It's this eye avoidance that happens when people think you're obnoxious. And many people will think, well, this is connected with deception. It is not connected with deception at all. It's connected with someone who just wants to avoid listening to an obnoxious person say whatever they're saying.
Incredible insight, Janine Driver. We shall speak again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vinnie.
When we come back, more of Amber Heard's testimony today. We'll break it down. We'll bring in our psychological expert. We'll bring in a legal expert. And you know, the jury's got to decide who's telling the truth here and what it all means. Next.
no other.
Until it would escalate. And then I started to notice the pattern of escalation where he'd throw glass or turn over a table. Then he would hit the wall, and then he'd hit the wall really close to my head. You know, like when I'm standing there, you know, just hit the wall, screaming at me. But then he would disappear and get clean and sober, and he'd come back and tell me that he was done drinking, he was over it, he was done, cleaned himself up, he'd done it before and he'd do it again. And then he would go back to this like wonderful, like almost like just unreal, like but real, you know, but unbelievably nice, sensitive, kind, warm, generous, interesting, funny man that I loved. And he would make me feel so loved.
Amber Heard today, you know, the testimony describing the love affair, but then also describing all of this horrific abuse. And by the way, today's testimony only went up to like 2013. They don't get married till 2015. And then they've got to have a marriage and a divorce. I mean, we got a long way to go in this relationship. We're getting a bunch of different perspectives on the testimony tonight. Let's bring in some more guests. Joining us in Los Angeles, California, family law litigator, TikTok lawyer, Lamar Mojdahizad. She's down on the bottom there. You can check her out on TikTok at Lawyer Lamar, L-I-M-O-R. And in San Antonio, Texas, forensic psychologist John Delatorre. Let me ask you, I'll start with John. We've only got up to 2013 and all this abuse taking place. Why did she marry him? If everything she's saying is true, why did she marry him? We're only up to 2013 right now.
Right, so Dawn Hughes, right, the expert that came on just before Amber Heard started testifying, described a little bit of what is called a trauma bond, right? A trauma bond is when the abuse actions and the loving actions coincide and they create a relationship in which the person believes that they'll make it through all the negativity because there will be a loving side at the end of the negativity, all the negative actions. And because that perpetuates and becomes so emotionally intense, the person finds it very difficult to leave that relationship. They believe that it can be fixed. They believe that anything is possible, including
even if you're getting sexually assaulted. I mean, sexual assaults we're talking about here.
Absolutely. This happens way more often in relationships than anybody would like to fully admit to. And sexual abuse absolutely can still occur. That's how relationships maintain, and people can continue to abuse, particularly those people that they're closest to because they're easy access for victims.
Okay. Lamar, take a listen here. Amber Heard testifying about Johnny Depp, classic jealousy, accusing Amber Heard of cheating. Let's take a listen.
Eventually that became, you know, him accusing me of cheating. I'd defend myself. I'd say, you know, that's crazy. You're wrong. I would never, the normal things. And they would escalate to the point where he would push me or shove me down, and then I'd get back up. And this happened several times. That's why it's not more specific, I suppose. When I'd get back up, I'd look him in the eye. I made a point of getting up and looking him in the eye. It's my way of defending myself at that time. And I'd look at him, and he'd ask me if I wanted to go again, and shove me back down. Eventually, he just hit me. Remember, he hit me in the face when I denied having an affair with my ex-wife, my ex-partner at the time. And he said he had proof. I denied it. And I was walking out of the bedroom, slapped me across the face. I turned to look at him. And I said, Johnny, you hit me. You just hit me.
Lamar, you're knee deep in this world of he said, she said, and bitter breakups. The testimony that we're hearing, what she's describing, all of this before they even get married, does it have the ring of truth to you?
You know, when she said that Johnny Depp was always jealous of other people looking at her or her potentially cheating on him, that part felt believable. It's the embellishments that are hard to believe, right? And it might just be because we're coming off of Johnny's story and now we're just beginning with her story. But I also think it's, you know, she's recounted this story before in the UK trial, right? And her testimony won that trial. So she is kind of going off of a script. I think she believes, let me just recount everything I said there. It'll win me the case. Whether or not it's true is a whole different story.
The embellishment, Lamore, you know, do you find in your experience that when people are going through this, that, you know, there's like there's that basis of truth, right? But then it becomes much bigger. I mean, from both sides.
Absolutely. I think that when you want people to believe you, you add those details. Again, whether or not they're true, you will add those details because you want someone to kind of feel like they were there, right? She keeps looking at the jury to make sure they're listening to her. She's giving all these details. When she doesn't have enough details, she says it out loud. Maybe that's why I don't have enough details, right? Because I think she believes the more details you give, the more believable your story. But the truth is the truth, and you need to tell it the way that it happened.
John, what are your thoughts? Because a lot of people are talking about that aspect of all this today. Also, that the story has become, the story is too big sometimes to be believable. Maybe it's, the truth is here, and there seems to be, it becomes a bigger story. And is it the truth? Is it what people remember? Can they remember incorrectly? Or are they doing it purposely? If in fact you're embellishing the story.
It's one of those things where it's all of those things, right? So we have what's called a demand characteristic. Essentially, when we're telling a story, we look to those people that we're telling the story to, and we're getting facial cues, we're getting behavioral cues to let us know that they're accepting whatever the story it is that we're telling. If we get cues that tell us that we're not on the right track, then perhaps we start adding a little bit more to kind of sway that person to believe in the story that we're telling. So we will embellish at times, absolutely.
All right, John Delatorre and Lamore Mojdahizad, appreciate your time tonight. We're moving quick through the show, so we'll see you again really, really soon. Thank you so much. When we come back, right back out to Chanley Painter, who is in Fairfax County, telling us about some of the things that the cameras weren't showing you inside the courtroom, the whole scene and what was happening on the day Amber Heard took the stand.
leave him. I wanted to leave him. I wanted him to get better. And he expressed to me so many times when he was in that period of getting clean and sober, he would tell me, "You saved my life. Baby girl, you saved my life." Everyone else was saying that to me, and I believed it. You know, if everyone else was saying it, he was saying it. I thought, just like his other friends who had gotten clean and sober and stayed that way, his older friends, these rock stars that he hung out with that had like gotten clean and sober and they had 20, 30 years, something, you know, I thought, and Johnny told me he would be that person, that he was gonna be that person, and I believed it. I had so much, I looked at that man twice my age, you know, I was 25, looking at this man twice my age, and I saw hope and like promise. I had so much hope. You know, the whole thing, kids and growing old together, sort of hope. If it was just for this one thing that he could do, which would save his life, which would be to get clean and sober. And I believed it.
I'll tell you this, you know, you've got two actors who are testifying, right, against one another. I've never witnessed witnesses like this, you know? They're completely different, the demeanor and everything else, but both so immensely dramatic in different ways. Unbelievable what we're witnessing. All right, let's bring back in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, who's witnessing it all in person. She's live outside the courthouse tonight. So tell us about the crowd today outside of the courthouse on the day Amber Heard took the stand.
Yeah, Vinnie, full force early this morning. Now, I told you yesterday at midnight, I met a woman who was number 7 at midnight last night. Well, for today, that was number 12. I sat by a girl who arrived at midnight to wait in this line and was number 12 to get into the courtroom. They give away 150 wristbands every day, 100 in the courtroom, 50 in an overflow room. If you don't make it, you're turned away. And there they are, unbelievable again today in anticipation. And they also gather behind the courthouse to watch the celebrities arrive. Mostly here for Johnny Depp, signs for Johnny Depp, gifts for Johnny Depp. And of course, they both arrive, Johnny Depp and then Amber Heard arrived today. We knew she was going to take the stand and she seemed upbeat, Vinny. Let's watch.
Watch your step. Good morning. How are you?
Greeting everyone as she entered, and that's pretty consistent. When she comes and goes from this courthouse, she makes sure to greet everyone as she passes them by. And of course, she took the stand today, this afternoon. Johnny Depp arrived again, blaring Bob Marley.
Bob Marley today again. All right, a lot of people, oh, there he is. He's coming in. You know, a lot of people today were talking about Amber Heard's appearance. Again, a little different. I mean, she's got a little bit of a different look every day. But today's the day she knows she's testifying, and she looked different.
Yeah, it was interesting to me because she does have a different sort of hairstyle, mostly pulled back, some looser, some tighter, and so I was keen to see the look for her time on the stand. And so a little looser hair, a little more demure, less makeup. We've seen this sort of look before on her in the courtroom, but today she drew a lot of attention when she entered the courtroom. First thing, murmurs from the gallery, everyone gets quiet, and I sort of thought maybe she wanted to cover the side of her face. If she looked towards the jury, she wouldn't have to see Johnny Depp really on her left peripheral viewpoint. But like I said earlier, she was looking at Johnny Depp when she testified, didn't seem inhibited at all.
And interesting, you said, you know, less makeup, less, you know, because when there's days where she looks very much like a Hollywood actress. Today, she looked like, you know, I don't want to say Hollywood actresses aren't actors or actresses aren't real people, but she looked much more like a real person today. And I've got to think that's purposeful, so there's some level of relatability with the jury, that you're not looking at someone who is super glammed up, which is sort of a contrast to Johnny Depp, because Johnny Depp is like Hollywood Johnny Depp when he's on the witness stand, and she isn't.
Right, and I'm so glad that he pulls his hair back now. I think that's definitely the better look for Johnny Depp. Remember the first week when he had his hair down and kind of disheveled and covered his face? Pulled back is definitely a sharper look for Johnny Depp and his three-piece suits as he comes in. And you know, these are designer clothes. Even though she may look a little less makeup and whatever, those are name brand designer clothes that I can't afford.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. What about departures today? That's always another big moment for the hundreds who travel to Fairfax County, Virginia every day.
No alpaca sighting today, Vinny, but dozens and dozens of fans, of course, lined up to catch a glimpse of Johnny Depp as he departed this afternoon after court. And like we showed you yesterday, there's been some measures to take a different route. Yesterday, fans were disappointed when his SUV turned to the right instead of going down the street to the left, and they let that be known. Well, today he exited out of a different gate, and some fans were able to wave at him as he left there, but they were strictly prohibited from running up towards the SUV like on Monday when it was a potential safety issue. I did catch up with a couple of those out who had been waiting to see him to see what they thought of Amber's testimony. Let's watch. Did you watch any of the testimony from Amber today?
Unfortunately, I didn't get to see a whole lot since I was working, but I did see a few bits and pieces of it today, though.
You have any thoughts?
I just hope that the truth comes out. Whatever side it is, I hope the truth comes out. Justice is served.
Do you support Johnny since you're dressed up as?
I support Johnny. Just based on what I've seen, the evidence and there's just a lot of signs that are pointing to why I think that Johnny is innocent in this.
I hope that I spoke to another woman, Vinny, who didn't quite believe Amber Heard again. Most there to support Johnny Depp.
Yeah, I want the truth to come out, says the woman with the Pirates hat on. It's an amazing scene. Chanley Painter at the courthouse. Get some rest. Another big day tomorrow down there. When we come back, we're going to bring in our legal think tank and break down what happened today.
livestream.com.
In Fairfax County, Virginia, Amber Heard takes the stand to tell her story.
This is horrible for me to sit here for weeks and relive everything.
We take a look at all the big moments and reactions in the courtroom.
He gets down on his knees and he grabs my hands and he's touching my hands and he's saying to me, I will never do that again. I'm so sorry, baby. I thought I put the monster away and I've done it before. It's done.
And break it down with our think tank. Plus, your reaction. Tonight's 13th juror question. What one word would you use to describe Amber's testimony today? Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of closing arguments starts right now. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. An incredible day inside the courtroom, an important day in Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, because for more than 3 weeks, we've been hearing Johnny Depp's case. We've been hearing from Johnny Depp for 4 days, from his witnesses, his bodyguard, his friends, his sister. We heard from his agent. And now we have turned the page in this trial. It is now the case is in the hands of Amber Heard and her team. And she was the second witness to take the stand, sworn in, testifying today. And she is describing crimes. Okay, she is not describing, okay, you know, we're having a fight or we got into a disagreement. She is describing crimes inside that courtroom. She is telling this jury that Johnny Depp assaulted her, physically assaulted her, sexually assaulted her. This is brutal, brutal stuff. And if the jury believes one instance of all this, the case should be over, because that would make her a victim of abuse. But the question tonight, and the question will be for this jury, is do they believe her? Because you're hearing something completely different from Johnny Depp. Two people in the same place at the same time telling us two completely different versions of what is happening in their relationship. And it's not just one incident, it's incident after incident after incident. There are some subtle commonalities in these stories, but wow, they couldn't be more different. They couldn't look more different in the courtroom, and they couldn't testify more differently, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. So let's get you inside the courtroom. I want you to hear Amber Heard here. Again, I said this is brutal stuff. This is what she's describing right now, that I'm going to play for you, is a sexual assault. Take a listen.
He's like grabbing my breasts, he's touching my thighs, he rips my underwear off, and then he proceeds to do a cavity search. He said he was looking for his drugs, his cocaine, his coke. I was wondering how somebody who didn't do cocaine and was against it, that was in and of itself causing problems in our relationship. How could I hide? Why would I hide his drugs from, like he was insinuating that I was doing it or something? It made no sense. He was telling me we're gonna conduct a cavity search, shall we? Like, just shoved his fingers inside me. And I just stood there staring at the stupid light. I didn't know what to do. I just stood there. While he did that, he twisted his fingers around. I didn't say, like, stop or anything. I just
A lot of ways for the jury to try to figure out what the truth is in all of this, right? Did this actually happen? You know, you listen to what she is saying, how she is saying it, how he's reacting to it or not reacting to all of it, and the other circumstances surrounding all of this, which includes all these stories that we heard today, all these allegations made by Amber Heard today, all take place before they get married. I mean, the testimony went up to 2013 today. They get married in 2015. They separate in 2016, officially divorced January 2017. So you got to keep all of that in mind as you try to figure out what exactly really happened here. What is the truth? Because in a defamation case, the truth is extremely important to figure out. Let's bring in our think tank tonight. Joining us in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Eklund Mercy. In Los Angeles, California, former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. And in Phoenix, Arizona, the attorney who represented Jodi Arias and the author of the book series, which you need to read, Trapped with Ms. Arias. Kirk Nurmi is with us. Great to see everyone. Eklund Mercy, he said, she said. He couldn't say it more differently than she's saying it. She couldn't say it more differently than he's saying it. They were married, they were in love, they were in the same place at the same time, experiencing the same exact incident. They were there, but they're telling us two different things. What are you noticing? What are you paying attention to? How is Eklund Mercy trying to figure out the truth here?
Well, the issue here is just looking at it as somebody who has defended both sides. And what you're seeing is that it feels she's choosing her words so precisely. She's choosing her words so wisely because she never said assault. She never said rape. She never said anything. She said cavity search. And that's the issue because, and then she said drugs. So she's trying to dance around not having more of a defamation suit. It just seems like it's just real choice words and choice timing because the testimony that's been used in the trial is mostly the testimony, the evidence that during the marriage. So she comes and she has her side of the story and we have the story that's before the marriage, which was probably be inadmissible in the divorce trial as well as in the first defamation case. So now we have this story, this new story that she was able to tell in a narrative. So as a lawyer, so when you have your client, when an attorney says, hey, you can testify in the narrative, that usually means sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, that maybe there's some issues with, consistency or consistent statements. It just seems like her words were choosing very, very wisely. I've seen people testify about abuse, and I'm not saying that she didn't go through it. It's just that I've never heard of cavity search. It sounds like she's describing more of like a pap smear versus, so I don't know. It's just a big old question mark for me.
Nima Rahmani, former prosecutor, would you be comfortable prosecuting a rape case if your accuser is testifying the way she is?
Absolutely, Vinny. Today's the culmination of what I've been saying for weeks. All the Johnny Depp fans on social media, traditional media, outside that Fairfax County courtroom, and even here on Court TV, have already said he's won. I said, wait, people, let Amber Heard tell her story. And she's begun to tell a very powerful story of sexual assault, physical assault. I'm not drawing judgment yet, but unlike everyone else out there, Amber Heard has already won once. Let her tell her story. She's going to be testifying tomorrow and the next day and on cross-examination. And like I've been telling everyone who's willing to listen, she's going to be an amazing witness. And so far, I've turned out to be right.
Okay, let's listen to more of Amber Heard. Kirk Nurmi, take a listen here. There's an incident where Amber Heard, Johnny Depp on a flight. I think they're going to Russia. And take a listen to what happens with Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, and the flight attendant.
I took a capsule, it's like a powder in a capsule. I took a capsule and Johnny took several. I didn't count, but you know, it's very different when you see someone take one versus a handful of something. But nothing that seemed to set any alarm bells off, and things were going fine until the flight attendant got involved. The flight attendant came by, was engaging with us. I don't think that they're really. It felt like it was before the effects of the drug took over. It was relatively quick, soon after we first took our dose, if you can say. And the flight attendant, Johnny offered her some. She of course said no. And then after some back and forth between them, Johnny convinced her that it would be fine. So she acquiesced and took MDMA with us. And within, you know, a few minutes go by, and the same thing happened that happened on the mushrooms at Hicksville with the woman, Kelly Sue, who I've told you about. Flight attendant got friendly with me, but just friendly, just like MDMA friendly, you know, was kind of, I'm a woman, he's a man, so she was naturally, I think, more comfortable with me physically. She kind of leaned into me and kind of sat on the arm of the chair I was sitting in. I mean, after all, she's on drugs, and Johnny grabs her hand and tells her not to touch me, and she kind of reacts in a way like, you know, like she's defending herself and was trying to clarify. And he grabbed her by the wrist and slammed it down on the table and told her he could break her wrist. And I remember thinking, I've heard this before. And that was a pattern that would repeat itself a few times.
Okay, Kirk Nurmi, maybe you've had clients who are into MDMA, which I guess is ecstasy, right? MDMA friendly. Johnny takes some, she takes some, but Johnny's not friendly. Johnny takes the ecstasy and he gets violent, he gets jealous. That's what she's describing. Your thoughts about the allegations of Johnny's jealousy, and one thing Amber said is that he gets especially jealous when it's other women hitting on Amber.
You know, Vinny, what I've seen here with her testimony, and I agree with Neiman to a certain extent, not the way he intended it, Amber Heard is putting on a show. But it is a poorly acted show of a woman who is working too hard, vomiting words to try to convince us that she was a victim of domestic violence, trying to say anything, even in this incident where she's on a plane, she's not a victim of domestic violence, just to try to, as a borderline personality would, devalue the person that she's with. So what does she do? She says, oh, Johnny's this horrible, jealous person on this flight, right? Devaluation. And we see this in a lot of her testimony. I think she's playing exactly into what Dr. Curry cast her as. So yeah, this is a poorly acted performance, in my opinion. This is a show, vomiting words, trying to convince everyone, the court of public opinion and those 7 people in the box, that she was a victim. And personally, I'm not buying it.
Nima, I think you were chomping at the bit a second ago. I thought I saw that. Oh, I was reading your body language, trying to.
I wanted to say MDMA is Molly. Ecstasy does have MDMA in it. So just a minor point of clarification. Look, it's early in the testimony, and I want to hear the corroborating witnesses, and we're going to have a lot of them. We're going to probably have the flight attendant. We're going to have ex-lovers. We're going to have the security guards who are going to testify that Johnny Depp would get so intoxicated, use so many drugs, he would vomit on himself and lose his bowels, and they would have to clean him up. So let's wait until we pass judgment, until we hear what Amber Heard fully says. Let's hear her cross-examination. I'm sure Depp's attorney is going to come after her aggressively, but there's a lot of witnesses in this case. There's text messages, there's recordings. It's way too early to say that Amber Heard is lying, in my opinion. Let's let her finish. Let's let her put on her case. She has the opportunity. She goes second, just like you defense attorneys always say, wait until you pass judgment. Prosecution goes first. Let the defense do its job here. And then at or before summation, we can pass judgment and say who's lying and who's not.
Eklund, I saw you.
Yeah, the issue here is, unfortunately, I guess me and Kurt can know about this more, is that when you have days that Amber had, and when Johnny Depp is testifying, and just look at the fact, like, look at the what's been happening. Johnny Depp is testifying. The court of public opinion is like already saying that you've lost. You fire your PR company, and then you literally come in like a very masculine outfit, like just completely, it's like a completely different person. It's not a different style, it's a completely different person that showed up to testify. What ends up happening sometimes is that when you have a defendant and they believe that it's not going good for them, they will up the ante. And as attorneys, you can only tell them what you can tell them. When they're on the stand, it's up to them what story they tell. And sometimes they believe they know how to sway juries. Unfortunately, we have clients all the time who believe that they know that they can give this Academy Award-winning performance, that they will become Denzel Washington and just sway everyone in their favor. And it doesn't happen. We see this often, and it goes
I saw it
down
once
bad.
years ago, and it was like, I think it was about 17 days worth of it I saw once in one trial that we covered. I'm trying to remember, what was the name of that trial? I think it was in Arizona. Anyhow, we'll be back, folks.
That was almost 10 years ago, brother. That was almost 10 years ago.
Wow. Hey, it was like 10 years ago. All right, Eckler Mercy, Nima Rahmani, Kirk Nermy staying with us when we come back. These two were in love. They fell in love on a movie set, and we heard Amber Heard's side of that romance today as well. Don't go anywhere. That's next.
888-848-4183.
We were falling in love. I mean, it was just, at the first dinner in London, he sat me next to him. He produced the film and was a part of controlling the film and was responsible for different things than I was as an actor having a small part in it. And we went on this press tour, and I think in London he had me sat next to him at a dinner, and then we ended up spending the night together in my hotel room. And for the rest of the press tour, it was on. I'll put it that way.
It was on. That's when they fell in love, when they were out promoting the movie that they made together. But Amber Heard also testified about what it was like making that movie together, which is 2 years prior to the press tour. And what she described today inside the courtroom sounded more like, she's describing Harvey Weinstein. I mean, she's talking about the man that she is going to marry and describing his actions as if he is a sexual predator. Maybe he is, but she ended up marrying him. Take a listen to the way she describes what was happening while they were making the movie together when they first met.
We didn't really have a whole lot of interaction on set until we did a scene that involved kissing. We had a kissing scene, and it didn't feel like a normal scene anymore. It felt more real. There are certain things that you do in the job to be professional, like when you have to do that sort of scene, and you don't you don't use your tongue if you can avoid it. There's certain things that you do to just maintain a certain line, and it just felt like those lines were blurred. I mean, he grabbed my face and pulled me into him and really kissed me. But we were filming a scene.
Did he use his tongue?
Yes. And he kind of picked up the back of my robe with his boot. And I kind of turned around and laughed, giggled, I didn't know what to make of it at the time. And I just kind of giggled and batted it away playfully. And he kind of playfully kind of pushed me down on this bed sofa that was in his trailer, just playful and flirtatious. And he said, yum. And he kind of lifted up his eyebrows like that. And I just giggled, laughed it off, kind of batted him away, and, moved on, went back to set.
And were you in a relationship at that time?
I was.
Okay. And was Mr. Depp in a relationship at that time?
That was my understanding, yeah. We did a press day, normal press day, and then at the end of it, I was invited by Johnny to come up to his room to have a drink with him and the director of the film. And I went up to the room to see both him and Bruce, but as soon as I got there, Johnny said Bruce wasn't going to make it. Then we drank red wine and continued to talk, and the talking became us, reconnect. It was like reconnection was almost instant. It was just chemistry. It's hard to explain that, but we sat on the couch and we talked, and it felt like there was it felt like there was an electricity to the room, and it's how I felt when I was alone with him anyway. And it was instant again. I was like, whoa. So on the couch, we talked, finished some wine, and then I got up and left. And as I went to leave, he grabbed both sides of my face, similar to what he did in Puerto Rico when we were filming that scene. And he kissed me, and I kissed him back.
Yum. Let's bring back in the think tank. Nima Romani, I got a big question for you. I'm very confused here. Is she describing being sexually harassed, or is she describing falling in love? Which is it? It's very confusing to me.
You know, listening to her testimony today, Vinny, I think she's describing falling in love. She said she loved Johnny Depp, just wished he would be clean, wanted to not want to leave him, and it's the psychology of an abuse victim. I'm not saying she's going to win. She may be a complete pathological liar, but she told a very powerful story today about her humble upbringings in Texas, that she came here to Hollywood at 17 years old and took every audition she could. She's riding on the bus. Very similar to what Johnny Depp did. And by the way, the fact that her hair is down, less makeup, because that's what her attorneys want. We saw it with Elizabeth Holmes. She wants to be presentable. She doesn't want to wear that power suit, hair pulled back. This is what jurors like. I don't know if it's going to work, but again, it's a very good start, and I like how she laid the groundwork today, Vinny.
We didn't have cameras in that Elizabeth Holmes case. What was that verdict?
It was a guilty verdict.
I know.
She testified, she took the stand, and the jury hated her. So.
Kirk, it seemed to me at times, and this was the part, I was uncomfortable with her testimony, because I thought they fell in love. I thought it was like electricity, but she seemed to be taking the opportunity to say to this jury, I was sexually harassed. You know, I'm wearing the robe, and she painted a very vivid picture of him, like kind of sitting back and with his foot lifting up the back of the robe, and then that creepy yum. I mean, that's sexual harassment. I'm sorry. He's the boss. He's the producer. She's got a small role in the whole thing. You're not allowed to do that. And she's describing that, but in the same. But then, like, 2 seconds later, it's electric. What is she trying to do here?
Well, I don't know that she's trying to do anything in particular, but I think it's a byproduct of her borderline personality disorder, because I heard the same thing as you, Vinny, when I listened to this testimony. But what do borderline personality people do? They idealize and they dehumanize, right? They devalue. So in that same story, she was doing both things. She was trying to make Mr. Depp look like a predator, but she was also idealizing him and falling in love with him. So in her head, he was doing both. And that's the way she saw things. And that's the way she saw the relationship. And that's the way, and Dr. Curry, I think, would say that she entered into this relationship with that unclean mind when she started.
Eklund.
Yeah,
I've got something else for you. No, I've got something else for you. She was describing Johnny Depp today and sort of describing the different Johnny Depps. I found it fascinating. I want you to listen to it and tell me what you think the jury will think of this. Let's watch.
And it would feel great, and we would be good again, and he'd be extra nice and extra apologetic and extra loving, and it would just, and we'd be back in the good bubble, the warm glow. And eventually it'd get bored, and then I'd see him drinking again. When I started to get upset, noticing the pattern of the violence going with the drinking and drugs, then he started sneaking it. So it became less clear, and I'd have to look for clues as to what he was on, so I just knew how to react, you know? Johnny on speed is very different from Johnny on opiates. Johnny on opiates, very different from Adderall and cocaine Johnny, which is very different from Quaaludes Johnny. But I had to get good at paying attention to the different versions of him. 2012, I was in the beginning stages of this, just learning these patterns. I was just learning that drinking kind of correlated with the violence.
All right, you got cocaine Johnny, Quaaludes Johnny, you've got warm bubble Johnny.
Mm-hmm. And what it's kind of smart in that she's telling the truth, in that people are different on different substances, but how she's placing it is the problem. Now, what I see that she's trying to do is basically set the stage for she was being groomed to be in this abusive relationship. However, if you hear the testimony of the grooming period, you're being love bombed in the beginning. It's all bubbles. It's all glitter. It's all cakes. It's all Skittles and rainbows. There is no I'm feeling hurt or harassed. That's not how they start So she kind of, it seems like she's taking bits and pieces it sounds like she's taking bits and pieces of different scenarios and is placing it on hers. And you can tell because it's just not consistent. It's like if you've ever seen Phoenix Rising with Evan Rachel Wood, you can see that when you're being groomed to be in a part of an abusive relationship, how it starts in the beginning. But you're seeing that she's taking over in the sense that, well, if I say that he hurt me in the beginning, it'll help my case. She risks to lose a lot of money. If she loses this case, she may get back poor again. So I believe that she is doing everything she could possibly do to win this case. And the fact that it just doesn't seem consistent, it seems like it'll hurt her in the end.
All right, we've got a lot more to get to. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're going to take a look at more of the testimony from inside the courtroom and also tell you about another big trial that we are tracking that is on schedule for this summer. Don't go anywhere.
Johnny's so generous and can be this really, like, overly generous almost, like showering you with gifts and compliments and just, and he has access and means to really, we're not talking about giving you a card. We're like talking about just these like extravagant trips or these extravagant gestures, and it's a lot. And he did that with my close friends. I relied heavily on my friends and had a pretty strong support network with them, and he really just showered them with generosity and love and light, and invited them to come to these exotic places and flew people here and there. He's incredibly generous.
Again, she's an actor, he's an actor, but they are so different on the witness stand. It seems to me that she is much more in performance mode. Johnny Depp was in I'm gonna charm him mode, right? And that's the contrast. He's driving, his delivery is driven more by his personality, and hers is driven more by the way she's explaining everything and trying to feel it and really tell you what happened. And it's fascinating to watch, unlike any other witnesses that we see here on Court TV. Okay, this is an unbelievable, compelling trial. There's another one I want to tell you about tonight that we are tracking here at Court TV. It comes to us out of Las Vegas, Nevada, involving a Playboy model accused of murder. Ted Rollins has the story.
Renowned psychiatrist Dr. Thomas Burchard had been missing for 3 days when his body was found in the trunk of an abandoned BMW in the desert outside of Las Vegas. Judy Earp, his girlfriend of 17 years, was back at their home in California and sensed the doctor was in trouble.
I told him repeatedly that these are not, the kind of people you want to be associating with.
Judy was worried about this woman, 25-year-old Playboy and Maxim model Kelsey Turner. Judy says Kelsey was extorting money from Dr. Burchard.
About $300,000 that I know about, and possibly more.
Burchard had a history of helping others and engaging with young, attractive girls he met online, like Kelsey. That's according to his friend, who did not want to be identified when he was interviewed by KSBW.
These women were just like an escape for him to have somewhere to go. He told me he met Kelsey on the website and met up with her, and they talked, and they went and had dinner a few times.
Dr. Burchard's friend says the psychiatrist started spending time and money on Kelsey, even renting this condo in Salinas, California for Kelsey and her mother to live along with Kelsey's child. Even after Dr. Burchard stopped paying the rent and Kelsey moved to Vegas, the two did keep in contact. And shortly before the murder, Kelsey reached out to the doctor, according to his friend.
He says, seems that Kelsey's having some trouble with her boyfriend out there in Vegas. He's hitting her, he's abusing her, and she has no money, nowhere to go. And I feel partly responsible for this.
Court documents show that Kelsey Turner was, in fact, reported as the victim in a domestic violence case less than a month before the doctor's murder. Dr. Burchard went to Vegas to see Kelsey, calling his girlfriend Judy only after he had arrived, saying he was spending the weekend and would be back on Monday.
I warned him on Saturday when he was there that, maybe you ought not wait till Monday to come home. Maybe you ought to just come home on the next flight.
After missing his flight and not responding to calls and texts, Judy called Las Vegas police. Dr. Burchard's body was found near Lake Mead, about 25 miles outside Vegas.
The actual incident occurred at a residence in the Las Vegas Valley, and then the body was found out by the lake.
This is the Las Vegas home where Kelsey and her boyfriend John Kennison were living and where investigators believe Dr. Burchard was murdered. Kelsey's roommate, Diana Pena, told a grand jury that Kennison attacked Dr. Burchard with a baseball bat and that after the initial attack, Kelsey insisted that her boyfriend knock him out. Pena also testified that the attack left Kennison covered in blood. According to arrest warrants, police recovered a bag from the Rio Hotel. It's where prosecutors say Turner, Kennison, and Pena fled to after the murder. Inside that bag, investigators found sheets of paper ripped from Dr. Burchard's notebook that contained his banking information and passwords.
Additional information has come to light.
Kelsey Turner was arrested in California 3 weeks after police recovered Burchard's body. Her extradition was delayed after it was determined that she was pregnant. She has since given birth to a girl while in custody. Her boyfriend, John Kennison, was arrested a few weeks later in Las Vegas. Both are facing murder charges. Kelsey's roommate, Diana Pena, pleaded guilty to accessory to murder and is expected to testify at their trials.
All right, folks, status hearing June 21st, trial date June 27th, next month, and it's in Las Vegas near the Fremont Street Experience down in Old Vegas, Binion's. That's where this trial is taking place, the Golden Nugget, and of course, we'll keep track of it for you right here on your front row seat to justice. When we come back, more testimony from Amber Heard. And I asked you today to describe her testimony with just one word. Your words when we return.
We're in the kitchen living room area and he backhands me. And, you know, it was, you know, he wears a lot of rings. I remember kind of just feeling like my lip went into my teeth. And it got a little blood on the wall. I didn't internalize, like, I didn't make that big of a deal of it. You know, I kind of pride myself on being tough and, you know, I don't make a big deal out of, you know, smaller injuries. And I know that sounds horrible because and hard maybe to understand, but my best way to cope with it is I kind of, you know, minimize it, make sure no one, make sure he knows that I'm tough and can't knock me down, and make a joke of it, clearly. then there would be a blow up. And at first it was just to throw something, smash some things. He loves to smash up a place, an apartment, furniture is what it started with. Glass, threw glass at me, and I remember it was summer. And he just threw this glass across the kitchen, and it didn't hit me, but it shattered behind me, and I remember thinking that it like very easily could have hit me. And that, calling me a whore, it didn't start with using the whore word, it was just comments until it would escalate. And then I started to notice the pattern of escalation where he'd throw glass or turn over a table. Then he would hit the wall, and then he'd hit the wall really close to my head. You know, like when I'm standing there, you know, just hit the wall, screaming at me. But then he would disappear and get clean and sober, and he'd come back and tell me that he was done drinking, he was over it, he was done, cleaned himself up, he had done it before, and he'd do it again. And then he would go back to this like wonderful, like almost like just unreal, like real, you know, but unbelievably nice, sensitive, kind, warm, generous, interesting, funny man that I loved. And he would make me feel so loved.
I don't know if I'm the only one. You know, I hear that, and I heard some, you know, when Johnny was describing when they first, I wish they would have made it. Like, they didn't have all these problems, but they did, and it's over. Anyhow, I ask you today, based upon what you saw in the courtroom, give me one word to describe the testimony of Amber Heard today, and then explain it. We begin with our 13th juror comment of the day. I'll give you a warning. It's Miranda. Okay, Miranda says, desperate. She's been backed into a corner. She's already lost in the court of public opinion, so she's giving her best, most desperate acting role of her life now. She was able to break horses, but she couldn't break Johnny. Kirk Nurmi, isn't that a great comment of the day? I mean, just well written and everything else. But do you agree that she appears desperate?
Yeah, I agree. I think desperate's a great word, because I was thinking she was working so hard and so driven, acting with every bit of skill she had to tell the story, to convince the court of public opinion, as well as those 7 jurors, that she was a victim. She was working so hard, being so dramatic, and it just didn't come across as genuine. You said it earlier, Vinny, she came across as so dramatic. He came across as authentic, it would be my word for Mr. Depp's testimony. Hers didn't come across authentic. It came driven and desperate to convince the world that she truly was a victim.
And it's funny, you know, because they're both actors. Some people are thinking, well, maybe he's just a better actor than she is. Maybe they're both. I don't know. Some people might be thinking that. Susan tonight. Nima, were you hanging out with Susan? Believable. I think he did hit her and pushed her. She loved him. Later, as things got worse, she started standing up more for herself, and he didn't like it. Nima, there weren't a lot of Susans, I'll be honest with you. We know we had like, you know, thousands of comments, and there was a Susan and a couple more sprinkled around, but that was it.
Well, look, Vinny, for once in my life, I'm trying to take a little bit more of a balanced view. I come here every week and I say people should go to prison for the rest of their life. And
he does.
You know, yeah. So for once, look, I know that Amber Heard is way behind. Everyone loves Johnny Depp. The women love him. The men love to hate Amber Heard. So I just want to give a little bit more of a balanced view. And I think she's got, and this is a terrible analogy, but she's got a puncher's chance of winning this case. And I think people are underestimating her. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, I think the legal mountain is high to climb for defamation against a celebrity alleging defamation in the United States. It's a tough case, no matter what the facts are, Nima.
I agree it's a tough case, and I know, everyone loves Johnny Depp and they want him to win, but I think that Amber Heard can actually win this case because I've seen her win it before. Obviously, different case in a different country, but everyone, and I'm telling you, we're going to come back here weeks from now, and I said, listen, guys, I told you so. She has a chance of winning, so let's wait to hear what she has to say. I think she may pull this one off, Vinny.
All right, here's what Sue says, not Susan, but Sue Eklund, prepared. Her attorneys did a very good job of preparing her for direct exam. She seems calm and relaxed. Let's see how she performs on cross. Eklund Mercy, cross may happen tomorrow, more likely a week from Monday, but your thoughts about her on cross-examination. Do you think she can retain the control that she had today?
No, cross is going to be so much fun. I cannot wait because it's not consistent. I see that she actually isn't prepared because I don't think she's really informed on like the abuse that she's trying to allege. Like one of the things that really just caught me off guard was when she said that, oh, he flourished my friends. Like he really helped the friends. Any abuser, like the first thing to go is friends. Like they try to alienate you from everybody. And the levels of abuse that she's alleging, and you're having your personal
Eklund, can I stop you a second?
there.
That is an amazing point you just made, because we have seen that in other cases of abuse where there's the isolation. You're cut off from your family. You're cut off from your friends. And this is the opposite. Wow.
Yeah. So if you have any abuse victims on the jury, which you probably have or who knows about it, the first thing you do, you don't have a best friend. You don't have anybody to confide in. You don't have anyone. They try to separate everybody and be your everything. And we have testimony of her stating that he just spread the love to everybody, to all her friends.
Yeah.
That's never happened.
Eklund. Just drop the mic. That was, you know, that's a great point because we've covered those cases. We've spoken to those experts describing all that. That's why we bring them on every week, folks. Eklund Mercy, Nima, Romani, Kirk Nurmi, thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Don't go anywhere, folks. I need your help when we return. Heard back on the stand tomorrow. Remember, we only got to 2013 today. Still have to get to the wedding and the ride on the Orient Express and then the bitter breakup. So all that still in store tomorrow. In the meantime, before we go tonight, I need to show you a photo. Take a close look. This is Jaquan Smith. Jaquan Smith from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, just 13 years old. This little guy is missing. If you see Jaquan, please call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or call the Oklahoma City Police Department. Let's see if we can get him back home where he belongs. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Vinnie Politan. Have a great night, and as always, don't forget to hug the kids.
A woman you suggest has characteristics of being afraid for her life, gives her intimate partner a large knife, which she has inscribed until death. That's your testimony?
Well, there's context. We drank red wine and continued to talk. It felt like there was an electricity to the room. He was accusing me again of sleeping with this artist, this musician, and then he was accusing me of sleeping with my friend in Spain. I just laughed because I thought he was joking and slapped me across the face.